So I guess the party line is I followed you up here. Well, I don't know about that. Mainly because knowing about that would involve knowing about some pathetic, ridiculous, and absolutely true things about myself. I'd rather not admit to right now. I woke up at 3 a.m. with the radio on, that Gladys Knight and the Pip song on, about how she'd rather live in his world with him than live in her own world alone. And I laid there, head spinning, trying to fall asleep, and I thought to myself, oh, Gladys, girl, I love you, but oh, get a life! Hey, the ice of Boston is muddy, and reflects no light, midday or night. I slip on it every time. Hey, the ice of Boston is muddy, and reflects no light, midday or night. I slip on it every time. Time, time, time. Time, time, time. Time, time, time. Time, time, time.
Hello, Daisy. Hi.
Hello, Drax.
Oops, I should look at you while I'm talking to you.
Yes, maybe so.
Yeah, why are we here? We're here, it looks like 114 Harvest, but I think it's different, and I'm standing here in front of a book, and I figured I'll invite you here to maybe ask me a few basic questions before we start on this endeavor that some people may know about and some people may not. I'll be reading this book that's right here in front of me, Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. It came out in 1996, made a big splash upon the literary scene, which means absolutely, it's like 0.0001% of the splash that Lady Gaga makes when she goes down to get a donut. So in other words, it was huge.
Yeah.
Within the parameters of the literary scene. But
Yeah.
So Daisy, why don't you ask me some basic questions? What's going on?
Yeah, well, it's a very large book. Actually, the book there on the table doesn't really do it justice. I think we should have made a larger mesh book just for the occasion, actually.
That's true. It's actually 1,092 pages.
Yeah.
And it has 300 additional pages of annotation. So actually the German edition is sort of 1,700 pages. The audiobook is 66 hours long.
Yeah, so I guess, well, I mean, I've got a paper copy in real life, I can hardly lift. So I guess my first question to you, Drax, is why on earth choose to read such an enormous book when you could, I don't know, read a nice short story or something, which I mean, the short stories are lovely. I'm always trying to convince you of the merits of short stories. But why,
okay, listen,
why
Daisy,
such a massive tome?
I have absolutely nothing against short stories, and I find the obsession or the talking point about this Infinite Jest book, like, oh my God, it's so big, oh my God, I cannot go through this, it's this big mountain, it's this Mount Everest of literature. I find that kind of a red herring a little bit, because first of all, I like novels, and I know you like them too. You like Charles Dickens. You recommended Bleak House, which is a little bit less. But so I like novels that have time, where the author has time to develop different themes, to develop characters, to really build a world and sustain that world. So I like that to begin with. And in terms of this book, again, like I said, in the public discussions, people always talk about, like, oh my God, this is so big. You know what? this is an accumulation of a million different hilarious themes. This is a satire about assassins who are in wheelchairs. These are called the wheelchair assassins. This is about the organization of North American nations where Mexico, Canada, and the United States become one country. This is about a video cassette or some sort of a cartridge. Actually, it's a cartridge of an avant-garde film that is so crazy and so enticing and so titillating that when people watch it, they die, and the wheelchair assassins are hunting for this avant-garde film to assassinate world leaders. This is satire of the highest order, of sort of a Kurt Vonnegut on steroid. But I picked this book because it was mind-altering and transformative for me, as it was for many others, and I figured, hey, you know what? I can read this once a week for an hour or so, maybe a little longer, we'll see, to have this all done by the end of the year. And I'm not even the craziest, Daisy, if you think this is crazy. There are people who made this book into sort of a Lego comic book. Like, there was a guy with his 11-year-old together. They enacted scenes in Lego. They took pictures, and there's a blog with pictures of Legos. There is a woman in this book. Her name is Madame Psychosis. She has a radio show. We're doing this here in the radio booth. She is so beautiful that she has to veil her face because people will also sort of go nuts when they see her. The book is so full of ideas. It's about life itself. It has incredible humanistic values. David Foster Wallace, if you don't know, was a highly sensitive individual who suffered from depression and drug abuse. He committed suicide in 2008. If you read this book or any other of his books, you kind of, I think, understand why he could not take he was just too finely tuned, you see. Like, it often happens with artists.
Yeah.
I think he was just suffering from getting too much input. He understood, but he couldn't change. He understands the human condition. And he suffers from the how should I put it, from the inherent illogical behavior that we're all sort of forced to enact, I guess, the chaos, the inconsistencies that we can never really solve, and that's depicted in this book. I also think this book is very, very timely as it depicts addiction to entertainment. Again, it's funny, it's a satire, it's hilarious, but at the core is something very severe, a very sort of earnest, very the dangerous allure of escapism in a way. And that's why I thought, actually, I know you want to pepper me with questions, but I was going to say, that's why I also thought it would be really cool to do this in this virtual world as the Blue Dragon, you know, in a world that is also being accused of sort of ripping the fabric of human interaction apart because of escapism, which, of course, I kind of disagree with, but it certainly has... there are two sides to virtue.
Yes, I see what you mean.
The promise and the peril.
So what do you hope to get out of doing this then?
This is a good question now. I think this is almost as... maybe this is sort of my version of building a model train set in my basement. I mean, this is a basement, right? And there are certainly many middle-aged men. I'm not quite middle-aged, I should say. But there's many people... I'm extremely young. You can see my, you know, look at these wings. Very
not wrinkles at all on your nose.
No wrinkles. No, this is like, yeah. But no, this is really me building my model train set in the basement. And if you're into it, you know, come to my basement and look at my model train set and look at the intricacies of the little details that I glued in, the little fir trees or the little mannequins or whatnot. So it is something that is extremely niche, I guess, as, you know, unfortunately, reading seems to be in general, or reading big novels. But I I don't know if this is going to resonate. I really hope it will, but I'm not counting on it. But I feel this is an important work. I mean, this is a good question, Daisy, because it's maybe not only building my model train set in the basement, because that will be a very solitary thing, right? Where I don't seek publicity. Obviously, I'm somewhat seeking publicity because we're streaming this and we're archiving this and we're kind of promoting it on the social networks. So I guess it's maybe a little bit a benevolent version of the guy of sort of the Mormons that go door to door and try to convince you that Mormonism is really great. All I want to convince people is that reading and focusing on reading something extremely challenging can be extremely rewarding. That's sort of that's the advocacy sort of missionary aspect of this project. What do you think? Crazy? Waste of time?
No. It's definitely worth a try. Yes, although it does seem to be, I've only read the first pages, but it seems as though a lot of it is about tennis, and I didn't think you even like sport. I don't like sport either, really, apart from the Olympic Games. That's about the only sport I ever watch.
This is a good, that's good that you bring this up.
I was quite surprised to see it seemed to be quite a lot about sport. Although,
this is fabulous that you bring this up. The setting is partially a elite tennis academy. The other setting is a halfway house and a rehabilitation center for alcoholics, and then there's several other settings. But the basic plot evolves around this tennis academy. By the way, it's in the Boston area, and there's a guy. He has a website where he has a Google Map integration, and he maps every like little place that the book takes place with little pins. You can go through Google Maps and look at there's like 1 million pins in there, because the book also then tangentially involves the West Coast, but primarily Boston. But this is an excellent question, and you're absolutely right. I really don't care for sports. Personally, I have admiration if that's your cup of tea and if you're excelling. But don't fear, dear viewer, and don't fear, dear Daisy, that this is boring and it's all about tennis. It really isn't. The Tennis Academy setting is really brilliant. It really is a metaphor in and of itself. It's the metaphor of something extremely American and maybe global, but it basically... If I look at the Tennis Academy setting, the place as a metaphor, as a protagonist, I mean, I learned from you as a writer that place is also a protagonist. This protagonist, the Tennis Academy, is really symbolizing the obsession with winning in the American mindset. This obsession with scoring high, with everything having to involve winning, which David Foster Wallace, the author of this book, looks at very critical and looks at actually the antithesis of achieving happiness, right? So the American dream is, the pursuit of happiness. I mean, it's right in there. So he puts that really in his satirical way. He puts this upside down and says, you know what? This is really not leading you to happiness if you totally pursue this sort of like, I got to be the best tennis player. And so in many ways, I think the setting is brilliant because you see a lot of different. So these people are generally young. They're, I think, between 12 and maybe 20 or so. So it's a tennis academy for young folks. And they're obviously, most of them put there by their parents who put enormous pressure on them. And that's a big cornerstone of the narrative in a really funny way because, again, it's like, hey, if you are succeeding, then you'll be happy. So this kind of formula, this is, I think, at the core that he sort of destroys in the book in many, many different ways. But the Tennis Academy setting is extremely important. And it starts right off at the very beginning, which we're going to start reading on Monday, this coming Monday, January 7th at 5 a.m., Second Lifetime, Sansar Lifetime, Sansar Lifetime, Sansar Light Time. the chapter starts right in an admission office to an elite university where the tennis history of the main character is important because, as you also may know, being from the UK, you may not know this, but the obsession with sports in America, take a wild guess why that is, because the higher education is so expensive that for a lot of people, the only way to get into a good college is to go in through a sports type scholarship. And so again, this is very important for the setting where the main critique really is, David Foster Wallace basically says, look at the values that we have here, this winning and this obsession with scoring really high. This is not going to lead to sustainable happiness.
Yeah. Well, I see the relevance of the sport then, and
so basically, viewer or whoever watches this and looks at it like, you almost got me there. I was gonna tune in, but now I'm like, no, I'm not into tennis. Guys, this is really just a metaphor. This is a stand-in for, it could be anything. Could be music. It could be, interestingly enough, another really great book, Don DeLillo's Underworld, has to do with baseball. And I really don't understand baseball. I have absolutely no connection to it. But Underworld is also a wonderful book. So sports can have, anyways, the book is not about sports.
No, I'm sure it's not. No, it's just, as you say, just a setting.
Oh, this is a very good question. Yeah.
Well, as I said, I only read the first few pages, so, and it was all about tennis. Well, not all about tennis, but all about partly about tennis.
Right. So, I mean, he's in there, and we get to know the main protagonist, and his uncle and several other people are trying to get him into this elite university by emphasizing his incredible performance in tennis. And it's actually a great start. So a little teaser here. Our friend Garth from Linden Lab read it, and he told us, like, it's interesting, but I really don't get it because Hal Incandenza, the main character, is like, he's just sitting there and he's saying nothing and he's just smiling weirdly while his uncle makes the pitch why he should be in this university. And all of a sudden, Hal talks like really eloquently about something, and then he foams at the mouth and ends up in a mental institution. What's that all about? I don't get it. So let me tell you, you will get it. It's brilliant. It's satire, and you will get it. It's not that complicated to understand. And even if you don't watch it every week, we'll archive it, and you will be able to go back. You can read along with a free ebook. There is a free ebook out there. It's linked in the description of this video. Yeah. Any other questions, Daisy?
I'm just wondering how many people you know who've actually read it.
Oh.
Has Garth, well, maybe Garth has just started it, hasn't he?
Garth started it. We kind of like,
we gave him... Well, I haven't got very far, but I've read the first few pages in preparation for Monday,
it's... I really personally don't know anyone who read it, and that's a little bit depressing to me. But the cool thing is this. I'll tell you one little anecdote. I was in California in a town I used to live where we actually won an award for our Digital Selves movie, and I reconnected with a friend of mine who our kids grew up together. His name is Mike, and I don't know, randomly I start talking about my obsession with David Foster Wallace, and he says, oh my God, I read his nonfiction essays. This is amazing. So David Foster Wallace also wrote like a lot of really funny nonfiction essays, like when he went on a cruise and he totally hated it. The title of that essay is A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again. So it's a brilliant title, and so Mike has read those and say, have you read Infinite Jest? And he goes like, nah, I don't know. I'm shying away because, here we go, it's so big and I don't know. And I go like, dude, this is the best. And so we went to the store, to the local bookstore, and lo and behold, they have it. And then Mike says, oh God, shall I buy it? And I go like, yeah, buy it. And he goes, okay, I'll buy it. I put it next to War and Peace and Finnegan's Wake in the shelf. And so we buy it, and then I buy, and they had, I forgot what I bought. I bought Oblivion, which is a short story collection, and The Broom of the System, which is his first book from the late 80s. So we run around with our books through town, like totally proud, like, look at us. We're not wasting any time. We're reading the tough stuff. So, no, I don't know anybody who read it, but there is a Dave Foswell Society. There are several podcasts. There are crazy people out there. One other tiny little anecdote. I gave this book in German to a German friend of mine for her birthday a couple of years ago, and she started reading it, and she got into it. And here, then the problem happens. A wonderful friend of mine who had struggled with depression herself over the years, and all of a sudden, I don't know if she called me or I said, like, how far along are you in Infinite Jest? And she got really mad. She says, "You're giving me a book where there's like a radio host and her name is Madame Psychosis and it's all about depression. Oh, you want to kill me?" So, again, I mean, I don't want to make light of this at all. If I can understand, because it deals with heavy-duty subjects. It deals with drug abuse, alcoholism. If you're struggling with these issues, this may be something that may really help you. But it may also be that may, because it's with enormous sensitivity, right? But you see what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you don't want to confront your issues in a fictional setting, right? Yeah, like if you work at an office and you hate your job, and then somebody says, "Hey, did you watch The Office?" And you go like, "No, no." So yeah.
Yeah, well, I looked at my Goodreads account. I mean, I've got probably, I don't know, I can't remember, 200-300 writer friends maybe on there, and several of them had marked it to be read, but no, I couldn't find it. Oh, they have it on the to be read? Apart from you, I can't, apart from you. You're my only friend that's actually read it. But yeah, there were quite a lot that was on the TBR, the to be read. But no, I didn't find anybody, I'm afraid, who actually read it. Which is quite unusual. Most of the books I look at least, one or two people on my friends list have read it, have read the book in question, but not this one. No.
This is very, very disappointing. Maybe you need different friends. You should unfriend all of them.
Yes, obviously they've got no, what's the word? Determination or something.
They have no follow through. They have no stamina.
That's right.
They can only read. There's no Reader's Digest version of this one.
Length and difficulty.
And as you know, I mean, Daisy, that I opened an Audible account. Just to, like, Audible has this thing, you open a free account, you get one free download, and so I opened an Audible account, downloaded the official audiobook, which is 66 hours, and then because it's the German Audible, and for some reason they said, yeah, you can have another one. I go like, oh, cool, maybe they have a German translation. And lo and behold, they had the German audiobook, but it's not only audio, it's a really bona fide audio drama, radio drama with actors, with sound effects, with music, unbelievable, 50-something hours. Maybe it's a little abridged here and there. It's produced by the public radio station in Cologne, and so there's that out there. This is one of those things where I hope to get the right pacing going, because I have nothing against audiobooks, but it can be complex, and so you gotta take it slow, maybe. Take it slow.
Yeah.
Not rush through it.
Yeah.
In closing, I wanted to say, as we're running out of time here, I have a hoodie on, a little bit small because my belly is a little big here. This hoodie is actually the logo of the Organization of North American Organizations, and Solus made me this hoodie. It's the hoodie that she already made me, and just slapped the logo on it. A little bit out of focus here, but you can see in the book, again, the book is a satire. It's set slightly in the future, and in the future that it depicts, Canada, North America, and Mexico have become one country, And here you see all the values or all the cliches combined. Cowboy hat.
Yeah.
Gotta be a gun somewhere. A broom. A baby bottle. What could that mean? We know what it means. The cliche that every Mexican in America is either a cleaning woman, a gardener, or a nanny for rich people. Yeah, so folks, thank you for watching. Thank you, Daisy, for asking me these wonderful questions. And I really do hope that that people tune in and it'll live forever, of course, on the internet, right?
Yeah, forever.
Do you think I should stream this into? Because this is a duplicate experience. I mean, we don't want to have trolls coming in. Should I stream this?
We stream it into the main basement.
Into the main basement, yeah, absolutely. So you can actually come there.
Watch.
That'd be hilarious. And then some, noobs come in and they go like, "What is going on here?" I thought, what kind of game is this? Well, infinite jest, of course, a term from Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet. Never-ending fun, and that's this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun. I'm sure it's not all about tennis.
It won't be, I guarantee it. And thank you, Daisy. That's exactly, and actually, this is the takeaway. If you are a young person or an older person, doesn't matter, and you're playing with the idea of becoming involved in the arts or just making stuff, you asked me earlier, what's my motivation? The motivation is not to get millions of views. The motivation should always be to talk to one person, and so that the fact that I know that you will enjoy this already makes it worthwhile to me, frankly. This is how you should approach. I mean, this is really an overall thing, kids at home. Listen, if you get sometimes when you start a music career or whatever, a performance career, you should give your best, even if there's just one person in the audience, and even if that person that's in the audience is your dad or your mom. It doesn't matter. You perform essentially for one person or a million people. It should be the same thing. There should be no difference. My biggest hero in the world, Frank Zappa, used to say, they stuck it out back in the 60s when they played in New York, starting out with the Mothers of Invention. He used to say that, they played gigs and sometimes they were more people on stage than in the room. And they kept going, and that's the secret of success, and success being defined as satisfaction, your own satisfaction, that you did good work, right?
It's true. It's like my Twitch stream. I mean, quite often they will.
Well, but you got a lot of people in your Twitch stream. How many people you got?
Sometimes it does, but other times it's like, particularly when I start, no one watching, or hardly anyone. So, but it's still, I still enjoy myself, which is why I do it. So, yeah.
And we have on the stream here, actually, on YouTube, Ambard is saying, "Hey, Ambard, please tune in 5 a.m. Mondays, or it's going to be archived here." Ambard from Ambardia from Sansar is watching this, our little intro here. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. One last thing I wanted to say. Again, shout out to Solus for this hoodie, which is based on the hoodie that my main signature hoodie. And also, I wanted to say the music that you heard in the intro is a group called Dismemberment Plan. Let me actually look at my notes here. Yeah. Dismemberment Plan, and the song is called The Ice of Boston. That was, I heard that on the Chapo Trap House podcast, and go like, wow, Boston. It's all in there, Boston and drunken people. So this kind of fits in with there's no tennis in the song, but it kind of fits in. So this is going to be our intro music, and then the outro music is Dirty Water, which, Rag sent me this one, and I actually forgot what the band was. Do you remember Dirty Water? It's also a song. The Standoffs. the Standalls from 1966, but I found a version of the Dropkick Murphys. I used to be really into the Dropkick Murphys, also band from Boston. So the outro music is going to be the Dropkick Murphys with Dirty Water, and that's
Very
it,
good.
Daisy.
Yay.
Thank you for coming
Excellent.
coming to the basement.
You're very welcome, Drax. And I shall look forward to Monday.
Monday,
Yeah, Monday.
all about tennis.
Yeah.
All about tennis.
No, not all about tennis.
Goodbye.